Thanks for tuning in to The Real Deal Show, brought to you by eBodyboarding.com and Tribe Boards. Thanks for tuning in for part 3 of my interview with bodyboarding legend Pat Caldwell. Yeah, so obviously, you're planning a move very soon to come back to current days, but right now you're living life pretty good. I still see a lot of shots of you at Sandy Beach, and you haven't missed a beat. You're 61 years old. You still look like you're 21 years old in the photos. So are you still out there every day after work? You said you get off at 4:00. You go straight to Sandy's and get in the water every day?
Not every day. No, I am slowing down. On a good week, I'll get 3 days in. And then if the waves aren't any good, I can miss a week. But
it's always Sandy's, or you ever get in the North Shore or Waikiki, any of those spots?
No, I'm staying between Portlock and Makapu. I don't have to venture anywhere else. I mean, the waves, I think we talked about it earlier. I mean, Makapu faces north to northeast. Sandy Beach faces northeast to south, almost southwest. And then Portlock picks everything up from west southwest to southeast. So, I mean, if the wind's blowing, Makapu's good. If the wind's blowing and it's blowing real hard, Sandy shore break's good. There's a little south swell and the tide's high. The reefs at half point are going off. If there's a big south swell, I've got big chinas to ride, and where I can really test my fitness and barrel riding prowess. So I mean, I've got it all right here. I don't need to go anywhere.
Yeah, I remember seeing the pictures from that session you had with Bryce Miyahara at China Walls a few years ago. Looked absolutely amazing. And you're, like I said, you look like you haven't missed a beat. Are you doing anything else to keep fit other than getting in the water?
Yeah, I've been lifting weights, 3 to 4 times a week. I try to get in and swim in the ocean with JJ when we go to the beaches on the weekends, and I do laps in the pool from time to time. On flat days, sometimes I'll just take long paddles to get to certain surf breaks, and then long paddles back, like in the Portlock area.
Yeah.
So I'm always working on that. I do a little bit of stretching. I try to eat right, and I've given up alcohol for the most part. So it's it's just about adjusting as you get older.
Yeah.
How you can do every day, and what kind of level you need to be in to surf the kind of wave you want to ride, and enjoy it, and not drown or have your heart popped or something. So,
well, I know you've had a couple injuries, right? And 5 years ago, you broke your collarbone and popped a couple ribs, right? So even an expert like you has been surfing that spot all your life. Occasionally you take some knocks, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. The shore break has definitely broken a few bones. Yeah, let's see, I broke.
Did she say 7? She's counted them.
7 in 10 years.
Oh my God. That's amazing.
Yeah. So it's, between my ankle and I broke my ankle and big shore break, and then I broke my collarbone and 3 ribs on a little tiny surf session at shore break, where I just kind of let my guard down and under rotated and landed on the back of my right shoulder. And that, let me tell you, breaking ribs and the collarbone at the same time was
misery.
My life was flashing. I couldn't breathe. It was the most excruciating pain, on top of feeling like I was going to die because I couldn't get enough oxygen. It was, so yeah, but you take your lumps, when you surf every day at a dangerous spot like Sandy's, I've hit the reef at half point. I can't tell you how many times. I've lost rings ripped off by the reef on the Kaiwi coast. I've had, just clawed backs and horrible.
Well, you know, what's funny is I interviewed Jeff Hubbard, and he kind of parroted what you're saying. His worst injuries were at Sandy's on small days, and he was out of the water. Yeah. Yeah. His back, his ankle, he's taking some knocks at Sandy's, right? And that place is no joke. You may look like a sand bottom shore break, but you have reef like Sashimi Rock and the reef at Half Point and a pounding shore break on the sand. So there's a lot of potential for damage out there.
Yeah, and the waves come out of really deep water and break extremely fast.
Yeah.
As you get older, your reflexes slow. You have to be very leery and just know your limits. So, yeah.
Well, speaking of limits, Pat, because people are going to want to know this, you used to charge giant days at Pipe and Waimea. Biggest wave you've ever ridden. Lay it on me.
I would have to say, believe it or not, it's going to be a close between Waimea Bay on the outside on a day that was closing out. It was one of those days, you know, when it was like in that 30 to 40 foot face range, and Mavericks in '99 when I went there with Alistair Taylor.
Alistair Taylor, yep. Wow. And that was about the same size, but cold.
Freezing. And yeah, Mavericks was second reefing on that swell. It was, and the buoys were like reading 40 feet at like 18 seconds or something ridiculous out in the middle of the Pacific. And so we did a little trip up there and spent 2 days surfing Mavericks that maxed out. There was only like 4 of us in the water.
Really?
Yep.
That would never happen now.
No. Well, the winds were blowing out of the south at about 20 miles an hour.
Ooh. A
bit of a south chop heading into the rights. So it wasn't perfect Mavericks. And Flea was towing in, and there was literally just Alistair, myself, and maybe 1 or 2 other guys paddling. There was just only 5 of us in the water.
Wow.
It was wild. That was big. That was probably my biggest wave. That in Waimea Bay.
Would you do that? Would you do that today? Do you have any desire to ride those kind of waves still?
I have zero desire, unless I was towed in at Jaws on a relatively less choppy day. I think I could do some tow-ins, but to paddle on a boogie board in 20 to 40 foot faces or 30 to 40 foot faces is not feasible. It is too dangerous, and you're just putting your life on the line. And you can't wear those inflatable vests laying down.
Yeah.
You just can't get your balance. So maybe toe-ins, like maybe toe-ins, I would feel comfortable. I've done that. I've towed in once with Garrett McNamara at a spot I'll leave unknown on the North Shore. I paddled out to at sunset, not the spot sunset, but as the sun was going down.
Nearly dark.
Paddled out there by myself, and Garrett was pulling someone else. I can't remember who he was pulling. And then he stopped and said, "Hey, Pat, you want to get towed in?" And I said, "Yeah, that would be great." And meanwhile, I mean, this was like, it was only in that Hawaiian, like maybe 15-foot range. And I was like, just the outer reefs that on the North Shore are massive playing fields. And knowing where you're at and where the next wave is going to break on your head is unknown. Yeah. But as soon as I grabbed onto the rope and he started pulling me out, the fear factor completely left my body. I was like not scared at all anymore.
Wow.
And he towed me into a wave, and I'd let go, and I did these big carves and stuff, and I got to the channel, and I was like, gosh, this was back in the late 90s. This is like when they were first starting to do it with jet skis, you know?
Yep.
And maybe 97, 98. And so I think maybe toe-ins, I could probably surf that size, but paddling, no way. not even. There's a reason why surfers are on 10-foot boards and surf like that, because you can't paddle fast enough on anything shorter.
Yeah.
Try do it with fins on your feet on a 3-foot piece of foam.
Yeah.
You actually sit 100 yards inside of these guys and take off underneath the lip in the vert, and somehow slow down enough so you don't get axed by the lip when you go from 0 to 60 in about 3 seconds. So
Yes.
the mindset to paddle into a wave that goes completely inverted at 40-foot faces on a boogie board is another realm, and guys that are doing are just asking for it.
They're Looney Tunes. I've seen videos of a couple guys bodyboarding at Nazare, and paddling in, and they catch the wave only by sheer luck that they're in exactly the right spot, because it's not like you can reposition yourself when a giant peak is coming. They just get lucky they're in the spot. But when they take off, they get going so fast, they start skipping and they just eat it. And it's like just the control on a 3.5-foot piece of foam is just not there at that high speed, high power, type of wave. It just, I don't know, equipment has to change, I don't know how that could even happen.
Yeah. What happens is, on a bodyboard, if you don't have the board on rail when you're going that fast, the board actually sucks down on the water, and your body's going faster and your board sucks down, you go right off the front of the board. And that's exactly what happens. These guys they're just so afraid to put it on rail at that speed, which they shouldn't be doing.
It's interesting you said that, Pat, because I remember going out a couple, for me, big days where I dropped down the face and my board felt like, I'm holding this to the camera, like it felt like it went concave like that, like bowed upward when I was at high speed going straight down the face. You know what I mean? Like a vacuum was created underneath the board, and it made the board taco in reverse, which, like you said, almost makes you fly off the nose.
Right.
No, the hydrodynamics behind that, but it's, I totally understand what you're saying there.
It's a suction, and there's a reason why Tom Morey called it the vacuum track rails, because when the board is flat going in a flat surface, the board will track straight ahead, because the board is being, as it's going forward, it's also being sucked down on the water. The planing surface is staying connected. So, go ahead 40 years, and guys that are taking off on 50-foot faces and going and keeping that board flat, every board is failing because their board is flat. You actually have to keep your board going rail to rail at that speed. Otherwise, your board is going to fail and you're going to go flying, sucked right off the front of the board.
Interesting big wave tip from legend Pat Caldwell there, folks. Take a note of what he just said. Rail to rail in the bigger surf, which is a great dovetail into one more topic I want to discuss. It's getting late, way past my bedtime over here, by the way. But it's totally worth it. And that is board design, because you've been kind of at the forefront of board design for many years. You mentioned the different companies you've ridden for, and the vintage market for bodyboards has come back. And there was demand for the Pat Caldwell model to come back. Custom X stepped up to the plate. They re-released the Caldwell model, and you've been really innovative with your step rail board, right? Are you still riding that step rail? What's the whole theory behind that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm still riding the step rail board. And it's funny because that board was designed and shaped back in 1983.
Whoa.
My parents' garage in Huntington Beach, California. I was trying to put a spin on the straight 60/40 rail, and trying to figure out a way to create more speed when the board is goes onto a rail. So I was thinking, I was going, man, well, because I didn't want to have a stinger like what the old Mach 10s did, where the template actually changes and becomes narrower towards the tail. That didn't work. The stingers Stingers just don't work on a boogie board. What I wanted to do was change the thickness of the rail, and then by changing the thickness of the rail as it goes towards the back, it creates a smaller vacuum track rail on every step, but doesn't change the template, because if you flip over the board and look at the bottom, the template stays the same. It's relatively
right. Yep.
curved. There's no break in the template at all. What that does is you still get the benefit of a nice flat bottom, and your maneuverability, and when you've got the flat bottom at slow speeds, and then when you want to go into a turn or a bottom turn, the board almost knifes through the water. It wants to kind of scoot forward. It's almost like it squirts forward, and you maintain more speed through bottom turns and cutbacks when you have the step rails on the board. And it's just a lot of fun, because I mean, most bodyboarding is done in slow, mushy 2 to 3 foot waves, and why not make it more enjoyable to do cutbacks and bottom turns by making a board that'll hold its speed through those turns for a longer period of time. And that's exactly what the step rail does.
You know, that seems like the kind of feature that you could only do in a hand-shaped board. Or it'd be very difficult to program a CNC machine to cut that out. So Custom X seems like the perfect company to implement that design feature, right?
Exactly. And you know, I think back in 1983 when I first did it, and I took it to Scott Hawaii and said, "Hey, make my board like this," and they just laughed at me, because they wanted to make a board in like 15 minutes and sell it for $90.
Yeah.
Now you can sell a good bodyboard that's hand shaped, that's got you know, that's got those different types of rails and contours and channel bottoms and what have you. And you can sell those boards for $350.
Yeah.
So retail. And now a shaper can spend a whole day working on a board, and and maybe 3 or 4 of the boards, and get 3 or 4 boards done in a day, and still make some money for the company and for himself. But back then it was just space age. People were just like, they're looking at it just going, no, that's gonna take like 4 hours to make, and we're not gonna get it perfect. And
yes, I could see that being a production nightmare for a company, at least on a mass scale. They just want to take that knife and cut that nice smooth rail out along the template. Oh, I got to get all detailed and do these steps. Forget it, right? So cost effective, no, but now you finally got to the point where they can, produce some of those for you, and that's, it's a unique innovation, and I appreciate you giving us the lowdown on how that works. It totally makes sense.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
and
man.
I did see one other company copy my step rail. It was a board I saw on Instagram, and it was a company out of Portugal that they were making a big wave toe-in board.
Oh.
And it had a single step rail, not the double step rails like mine is on each rail, but it was just a step in the middle of the board where the rail stepped down on the deck. The top stepped down. And I saw it, and I was stoked. I was so happy to see someone else, because I mean, imitation is the greatest form of flattery. So I mean, I just say, if anybody's got a good idea out there, share it, use it, enjoy it, geez, just what can I say? I've just got lucky with rail, because most people look at that thing and go, "Oh, that's a Stinger." I go, "No, you don't know what you're looking at. You have to really look at that thing to understand what it does. You actually have to kind of play with the board in the water and push it along and figure out what's going on here." It's kind of like looking at a Mobius strip. You kind of don't know exactly which plane you're on when you're looking at this step rail until you actually use it in the ocean and spend some time looking at it and studying the template and understanding what what kind of action the board is doing when it moves through the water. It's very alien.
Well, everything you just said is very Tom Mori-esque. From the fact that the first thing you said, if you have an idea, share it. That's total Tom Mori right there. And the fact that, you think in those deep hydrodynamic terms that other people wouldn't think about, right? You're thinking of how the steps work with the water. Tom was like that. So it's interesting to see how Tom has rubbed off on, those of us who were blessed enough to know the man. He really left a big legacy with all of us, I think.
He sure has. I mean, look at Mike. There's a reason why Mike called his company Science, right? So being involved in that stuff is kind of it's how we grew up listening to Tom. I still to this day like to finish my letters and correspondence with people with the word enjoy. And that's what Tom Mori did at the end of all of his letters. Is he would just write the word enjoy in capital letters with an exclamation point.
That's true. So true. He did share everything, and to the point where, he shared the boogie, what he called it when he invented it, with the world, and really didn't make anything out of it financially. That wasn't his concern. His ethos was, if I come up with something great for humanity, I'm going to share it. And yeah, it's great to see that sort of live on. And I talked about legacy a minute ago, Pat. We could talk for hours, by the way, but I'm going to wrap this one up. And then,
Okay.
We'll come back another time and talk some of the funny stories we've had along the way. But let's talk about your legacy to finish up this podcast, and what you would like people to remember you for. Not saying you're anywhere near the grave, but when you're gone, what do you want people to remember Pat Caldwell for, as far as your legacy in the sport of bodyboarding? What do you want to be remembered for? I ask this question frequently, but I want to hear your take on it.
The inventor of the El Rolo made the El Rolo famous in the sport and opened up the third dimension that the bodyboarders today so enjoy. It's this that was the first maneuver that we utilized when we got the speed that we could on the boards. And so I think as the inventor of the El Rolo, I was 3-time pipe runner-up, but there were a couple of those contests I probably should have and could have won. So maybe someone who pioneered pipe along with Daniel Kaimi and Mike Stewart and the others, Kalen Tanaka and what have you, that pioneered pipeline, pioneered the professionalism of the sport, I think. And
you should also be remembered as a true waterman. There's not a lot of true watermen out there.
Yeah, you've done the Molokai Channel paddle before. Didn't you do the Catalina paddle? You paddled where Long Beach to Catalina or San Pedro to Catalina or something. You just left. There's the waterman side of Pat Caldwell, right?
Yeah, I would like to be known as that. I mean,
You're stoked. I mean, seriously, if it's 1 foot, I've never seen somebody so happy in 1 foot waves or massive China walls as you. You're stoked.
Yes, you could always look at the surf, Pat, and find a diamond in the rough. I remember, we'd go places or whatever, and you'd pull up to the beach, it'd be 1 foot onshore, and you'd find this little windy barrel and go, look at that, that's insane. Let's get out there. And everybody else is like, are you kidding me? It's onshore crap. So you always had that, glass half full outlook.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably why I became a decent judge too, is that I could see things that were happening that other people couldn't see and didn't see. I liked going out after saying that and then pulling into a barrel and coming out and go, oh, there it is. The other guy's saying, oh, there it is. But no, I just growing up in Hawaii, I was as a skinny Howley blonde kid, it was kind of ingrained in me to be humble and to wait your turn and to respect. And I think I still bring that attitude to crowded half point, even though I'm the top of the pecking order out there. No matter who's out there, I can get any wave I want. I still wait my turn. If I just got a good wave, I'm gonna wait in the shoulder and then kind of rotate in till it's my turn. And so hopefully, I'd like to be a mentor to these young kids. And it's funny. I mean, we can get into stories, but that's what I want to be remembered as, someone who was took the time to explain and to mentor and to be humble, yet still be someone who can charge and be interested in doing other things, not just bodyboarding, like getting a college degree, like paddling the Molokai Channel before there was even a race on that thing on a prone bodyboard. Did it twice in the same summer. And then I was a professional skimboarder. I stand up surf. I still do. It's something that I'll probably do until I'm dead. So, and to keep that stoke, even when I'm being called uncle out in the water, hopefully brings a smile to people's faces and creates a better environment for humanity to enjoy the surf and the environment that we so take advantage of. So that's it.
And just so people know, the term uncle in Hawaii is a term of respect for people that have been around for a while, right? They've put in their time. You call them uncle over in Hawaii, right? Is that
That's
a good
correct.
description? Yeah. Okay. One final thing. Let's end on a funny note here, Pat. All your generation of bodyboarders had nicknames. I know some of them. Let's hear what your nickname was. I know what it is, but are you going to tell us?
Noodle.
That's right. It was the noodle. Why? Explain that to the listeners and watchers here.
Well, it may be different than what I'm going to say. It may be different to you, but it was given to me by Kainoa McGee.
Okay.
I was the one who really started calling me Noodle. I guess it's because I'm a skinny, lanky, tall guy that kind of
flexible, yeah,
noodles my way across the waves. And
that's the same definition I know of why you were called Noodle, because you were just tall and skinny and you could flex and move with the wave, which is, I think, complimentary. Some of the other nicknames other guys had, not so complimentary. We'll get into that with them when I talk to them, but I love it, man.
Absolutely.
Any final words, Pat? Well, again, we'll talk story in another podcast, and I may have to split this one up into a few parts, which may happen, but that's awesome. People can watch it in chunks. But any final words you want to say while we're finishing this?
I just want to thank you, Jay, for documenting this with me, and hopefully, it'll be around for generations to come. And thank you and your family and eBodyboarding for this chance to do this. And I want to thank my wife for the awesome support. Even when we were apart for those 18 years, we both still thought about each other immensely. And one final thing is that, just treat your fellow human like you would want treated in return. Have respect in and out of the water. Bite your tongue, suck it up, be humble, and enjoy the ocean.
Love it, man. What a great way to finish. So, folks, I got to give a huge thanks to Pat Caldwell and JJ Caldwell, who's in the background there, for taking a couple hours out of his night here to talk to me tonight. And, like I said, Pat, we've known each other more than 40 years. It's, I don't know if we'll still be around another 40 years from now. That would be a miracle, but let's hope so. But I'm stoked to chat with you, man. It's been a real pleasure.
Same here. Just absolute pleasure. Thank you, Jay.
Right on, brother. So, folks, thanks for watching the Real Deal Show. If you like this on YouTube, give us the thumbs up and subscribe. Throw some comments in the comments below for Pat, and we'll get him to answer if you have any specific questions for him. And maybe I can, do another show later on, and we'll get some more classic stories, because there's a lot of them out there. And it's just been a pleasure, folks. Thanks for watching. On behalf of Pat Caldwell and JJ Caldwell, we'll see you next time, and we'll see you in the surf.